The stars twinkled against the vast blackness of space as Commander John Baker stared at his monitor screen. It was just another quiet shift at the Earth Defense Force monitoring station orbiting above Mars. The year was 2157, and humanity had spread across the solar system with thriving colonies on Mars and Europa. John rubbed his tired eyes. 12 hours into his shift and nothing unusual had happened. That changed when a sharp beep cut through the silence of the control room. "Commander, we're picking up something strange," said Officer Lily Chen, her voice tense. "It's a signal, unlike anything in our database." John hurried to her station. The signal pattern pulsed across her screen in ways that defied Earth's communication protocols. "How far?" he asked. "Beyond Neptune, sir, and it's moving toward us. Fast." Within hours, the entire Earth Defense Force was on high alert. The signal belonged to a massive vessel approaching their solar system at impossible speeds. It was larger than anything humans had ever built, nearly the size of Manhattan. 3 days later, the ship slowed and positioned itself just beyond Mars. It made no hostile moves, but its presence alone was enough to terrify and fascinate Earth's population. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," said Lily, in perfect English. The message was simple. "We come in peace as representatives of the Altarian Empire, a member state of the Galactic Confederation. We wish to speak with your leaders." Earth's government scrambled to respond. After heated debates, they selected Ambassador Lisa Morris to lead the diplomatic mission. Lisa had a reputation for staying calm under pressure and thinking quickly. The meeting was set on neutral territory, an orbital platform between Earth and Mars. Lisa and her team of 5 diplomats and scientists prepared for humanity's first extraterrestrial encounter. The Altarians looked almost human except for their pale blue skin and large almond-shaped eyes. Their leader, who called himself Envoy Trellick, bowed slightly when Lisa entered. "We have observed your species for some time," Trellick said. His voice was soft and melodic. "Your technological advancement is impressive for a species so young." Lisa nodded. "We are curious about the universe and driven to explore it." "Yes, we've noticed. This is partly why we've come. The Galactic Confederation consists of over 300 species across this sector of the galaxy. We offer Earth membership as a protectorate species." "Protectorate?" Lisa asked. "What exactly does that mean?" Trellick smiled. "You would receive our protection, access to some of our technology, and trade routes with other worlds. In exchange, you would follow Confederation laws and limits on expansion in certain technologies." Lisa's diplomatic training couldn't hide her frown. "And if we wanted full membership instead?" The Altarian's expression changed slightly. "That is not possible at this stage. Your species is considered primitive by Confederation standards. No offense intended, of course." Lisa stood straighter. "Ambassador Trellick, while we appreciate your offer, humanity has fought long and hard for its independence and self-determination. We would be interested in friendship and exchange of knowledge, but not as lesser partners." The room grew quiet. Trellick's smile disappeared. "I must warn you, Ambassador Morris, that the Confederation Council does not respond well to pride from developing worlds. Protectorate status is generous. Many species wait centuries for such an invitation." "Then perhaps we can continue this discussion when you're prepared to speak as equals," Lisa replied. The meeting ended shortly after. As the Altarians prepared to leave, Trellick approached Lisa privately. "You seem like a reasonable person," he said quietly. "Convince your leaders to reconsider. The Confederation is not accustomed to rejection, especially from worlds at your development stage." Lisa met his gaze steadily. "We look forward to future discussions on more equal terms." Trellick's expression hardened. "Then prepare yourselves. The Council will not be pleased." The Altarian ship departed the next day, leaving humanity to wonder if they had just made first contact or their first interstellar enemy. Earth's governments began increasing military budgets and accelerating weapons development programs just in case. 6 months of tense waiting followed, as humanity looked to the stars with new eyes, wondering what would come next and whether they were ready for it. The morning sky over New York turned from blue to a strange purple as 27 massive ships appeared in Earth's orbit. Each one dwarfed the International Space Station. People stopped in the streets, pointing up at the sky in fear and wonder. 6 months had passed since the Altarians left with their warning. Earth had used that time to prepare, but no one truly knew what to expect. "They're hailing us," said Lily Chen, now promoted to lieutenant. She looked at Commander John Baker with worried eyes. The main screen in Earth Defense Headquarters lit up with the image of a tall, reptilian being. Unlike the almost human Altarians, this alien had green scales and yellow-slitted eyes. "I am Admiral Zexthra of the Silosian Fleet, representing the Galactic Confederation Council," the alien said. His voice was deep and rough. "Your world has been granted the honor of Protectorate status. You will accept this designation immediately and prepare to receive our governance officials." President William Harris, standing beside John, stepped forward. "Admiral, we appreciate the Confederation's interest, but Earth remains an independent world. We are open to equal diplomatic relations." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "This is not a negotiation. You have 24 Earth hours to accept your status, or we will implement trade sanctions and a full blockade of your system." The screen went black. An emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council was called. For 12 hours, world leaders debated their options. In the end, they voted to maintain Earth's independence, but also to avoid direct military confrontation, if possible. When the 24 hours expired, the Confederation fleet spread out, surrounding Earth's solar system in a sphere formation. No shots were fired, but any Earth vessel attempting to leave the system was forced to turn back. Captain Frank Martinez stood in the briefing room of the EDF base on Europa. 30 men and women, Earth's best pilots and soldiers, looked back at him. "This mission is completely voluntary," Frank said. "We've developed experimental stealth technology that might get past their blockade. But I won't lie, the chances of success are low, and the chances of return are even lower." Despite the risks, every person in the room volunteered. Frank selected 5 ships with crews of 4 each. "Our mission is simple," he continued. "Break through the blockade, find other species who might help us, and learn everything we can about Confederation weaknesses." 3 days later, under the cover of a solar flare, Frank led the small squadron away from Europa. Their ships were painted with a new material that absorbed sensor scans. They moved slowly, using Jupiter's massive gravity to slingshot them toward a gap in the blockade. "Scanner shows 2 Confederation ships at our 3 o'clock, whispered Lieutenant Olivia Green, Frank's navigation officer. "If they turn this way, hold course," Frank said calmly, though his hands gripped the controls tightly. For 6 tense hours they crept through the blockade. 1 ship was detected and forced to turn back, but the other 4 made it through. Once clear, they activated their main engines and disappeared into the darkness of space. For 3 weeks they traveled in the direction the Altarian ship had come from. They found nothing but empty space until their sensors detected a small outpost on an asteroid at the edge of a yellow star system. "Life signs," Olivia reported. "Not human, but not Silosian either." Frank made his decision. "Let's introduce ourselves." The outpost belonged to a species called the Nidorians. They looked like tall, thin humans with large eyes and 6 fingers on each hand. They were immediately fearful when Frank's team arrived. "You should not be here," said their leader, who called himself Renfix. "If the Confederation finds you, we're already on their bad side," Frank explained, showing them images of the blockade around Earth. Renfix's expression changed from fear to interest. "You refused Protectorate status? No species has done that in 700 cycles." As they shared stories, Frank learned the truth. The Nidorians had been a protectorate for over 300 years. In reality, they were little more than slaves providing resources and labor to the Confederation while receiving almost nothing in return. "We are not the only ones who resent them," Renfix said quietly. "There are others. If you truly wish to resist, perhaps we can help each other." For the first time since the blockade began, Frank felt a spark of hope. Perhaps Earth wasn't as alone in the galaxy as they had feared. The Nidorian underground base hummed with activity. What had started with a single meeting between Captain Frank Martinez and Renfix had grown into something much bigger. Frank and his crew had spent 3 weeks helping the Nidorians disable the surveillance systems the Confederation had placed on their world. "Your people have a talent for breaking things," Renfix said with a sound like laughter. He watched as Lieutenant Olivia Green rewired a Confederation monitoring device to show only empty rooms and quiet hallways. "We prefer to call it creative problem-solving," Frank replied with a smile. Back on Earth, Dr. Amanda Wells hunched over her microscope in the Luna Base laboratory. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had been studying the DNA samples from the Altarians that Ambassador Lisa had secretly collected during their first meeting. "This can't be right," she muttered, running the test again. When the results came back the same, she called Commander John Baker. "Humans have something that Confederation species don't," she explained when John arrived. "Our genes show a unique adaptability. We evolve faster, adjust to new environments better, and our immune systems are remarkably aggressive." "Is that why they're treating us like a threat?" John asked. Amanda nodded. "I think they're afraid of what we might become." Meanwhile, in deep space, Frank's mission had expanded. The Nidorians had introduced Earth's team to representatives from 2 other species, the Volturians and the Kalish. The Volturians were short, stocky beings with tough, orange skin. They had once been warriors before the Confederation conquered them and turned them into miners for rare metals. The Kalish resembled tall, slender cats walking on 2 legs. They were natural scientists whose research had been limited by Confederation rules for centuries. "We have all suffered under Confederation control," said Drex, the Volturian leader. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "But none of us dared to stand against them openly. Until now," added Mira, the Kalish scientist. Her fur rippled with excitement. "Your humans have shown it is possible to say no." Together, the 4 species formed what they called the Free Species Alliance. Each brought different strengths. Humans with their adaptability and determination, Nidorians with their knowledge of Confederation systems, Volturians with their strength and fighting skills, and Kalish with their scientific knowledge. As the Alliance made plans, Kevin Daniels, Earth's top intelligence officer, was making a disturbing discovery. He had managed to hack into a Confederation communication channel using technology reverse-engineered from the monitoring devices on the Nidorian homeworld. "They're planning to make an example of Earth," he reported to President Harris. "They're gathering a fleet larger than the blockade force. They don't just want to contain us, they want to break us." The president called an emergency meeting. "How long do we have?" 2 months, maybe less," Kevin replied. "Then we need to prepare," said General Alan Foster, head of Earth's military forces. "And we need to get a message to Captain Martinez." Using a series of encrypted burst transmissions, Earth managed to alert Frank and the Alliance about the coming attack. The race to prepare defenses began. On the Confederation capital world, a massive artificial ring around a red giant star, Ambassador Lisa Morris was fighting a different battle. She had been sent to plead Earth's case before the Confederation Council, a gathering of representatives from the 300-member species. The council chamber was massive, with rising tiers of seats arranged in a perfect circle. Lisa stood in the center, feeling very small but refusing to show fear. "Members of the council," she began, her voice steady and clear. "Earth comes before you not as a supplicant but as a voice for change. The system of protectorates is not mentorship, it is control. Not guidance, but exploitation." Murmurs spread through the chamber, some angry, some surprised, a few, very few, thoughtful.
"Humanity believes in freedom and dignity for all beings," Lisa continued. "We believe that every species has the right to determine its own path, and we will fight for that belief. The council president, an ancient Tyraxian with scales like
Polished silver, leaned forward. "Bold words, human, but words will not save your world from what is coming." Lisa met his gaze without flinching. "Perhaps not. But actions might." What the Council didn't know was that even as Lisa spoke, the Alliance was spreading across Confederation space, preparing for a fight that would change the galaxy forever. The attack came without warning. Mars colony woke to the sound of alarms as 50 Confederation warships appeared in orbit. Red emergency lights flashed in every corridor of the colony dome. All civilians to emergency shelters. This is not a drill. Colony Governor Susan Wright's voice echoed through the speakers. Her hands shook as she activated the evacuation protocols, but her voice remained steady. The first energy blasts hit the colony's outer defenses, lighting up the Martian sky with flashes of green. The shields, based on reverse-engineered Altarian technology, held, but only barely. "How long will the shields last?" Susan asked the chief engineer. 20 minutes, maybe 30, he replied grimly. Susan nodded. "Then we have 30 minutes to evacuate everyone to the underground bunkers." On Earth, the first reports from Mars reached General Alan Foster at Defense Headquarters. His face hardened as he watched. "The live feed from Mars orbit. They're testing our defenses," he said to the officers gathered around him. "This is just the beginning." He turned to his communications officer. "Activate the quantum defense grid and get me a direct line to Mars." Colony. The quantum defense grid was Earth's most closely guarded secret, a network of satellites equipped with weapons that operated on principles the Confederation had never seen before. Earth scientists had been working on quantum technology for decades before first contact, and they had accelerated their research in the 6 months since. In Mars orbit, the Confederation vessels continued their bombardment. Suddenly, 5 of the ships lurched as if hit by something invisible. Their engines flared and then went dark. Admiral Zexthra, commanding the attack from his flagship, hissed in surprise. "What was that? Scan the area." His crew frantically checked their instruments but found nothing. Then 5 more ships went silent. On Earth, General Foster allowed himself a small smile. "The quantum disruptors work. They can't see them, and they can't shield against them." The Confederation forces, faced with an invisible enemy, pulled back from Mars. But everyone knew they would return with a larger force. Governor Susan Wright organized transport ships to evacuate as many colonists as possible back to Earth. Those who couldn't leave moved to the deep underground shelters carved into the Martian bedrock. "We've bloodied their nose," she told her people, "but the real fight is just beginning." In the Confederation capital, Ambassador Lisa Morris was placed under house arrest. Guards were posted outside her quarters, but they underestimated human ingenuity. Lisa had managed to hide a small communication device in her hair clip. She used it to contact Earth. "The Council is in chaos," she whispered to President Harris. "Some species are questioning why such force is being used against a new race. Others are demanding even stronger measures. Can you get any intelligence about their military plans?" the president asked. "I'm trying. There's a Confederation scientist named Krell who seems sympathetic. He's been slipping me information." On the other side of Confederation space, Captain Frank Martinez and the Free Species Alliance saw the attack on Mars as their signal to act. "Now is the time," Frank told the Alliance leaders. "While their attention is focused on Earth, we can start disrupting their operations elsewhere." The Nidorians provided the locations of key Confederation supply depots. The Volturians offered warriors skilled in boarding actions. The Kalish contributed technical expertise to bypass Confederation security systems. Frank divided his small but growing fleet into strike teams. Each would hit a different target, spreading confusion through Confederation space. Meanwhile, Dr. Peter Collins, Earth's leading physicist, worked day and night in a secret laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains. The Confederation attack had given his team access to actual Confederation technology salvaged from the disabled ships near Mars. "Their shields operate on a completely different principle than ours," he explained to General Foster during a secure briefing. "But they have a fundamental weakness. They can't adapt to rapidly changing energy frequencies." "Can we exploit that?" the general asked. Peter nodded. "We're modifying our weapons now. If this works, we'll be able to punch through their shields like they're not even there." The Confederation Council, confident after their initial strike, voted to launch a full-scale assault on Earth. They assembled a fleet of 300 ships, the largest military force the Confederation had deployed in 1,000 years. What they didn't know was that humans were far more resourceful than they had anticipated, and that their simple, punitive action was about to turn into the biggest mistake the Confederation had ever made. 3 months passed after the attack on Mars. Those months were filled with brutal space battles as the Confederation tried to push deeper into the solar system. Earth's quantum weapons gave them an edge, but the Confederation had numbers on their side. Engineer Maria Garcia hadn't slept properly in days. Her lab in the underwater research facility near Hawaii was littered with empty coffee cups and food wrappers. Screens covered every wall displaying lines of code that would make no sense to anyone but her. "I think I've got it," she said, her tired eyes fixed on the central screen. The small team of programmers around her stopped what they were doing and looked up. "The virus?" asked her assistant. Maria nodded. "I've studied the computer systems from the Confederation ships we captured. They all use the same basic operating system. This virus can get inside and shut down their weapons, life support, engines, everything." "How do we deliver it?" someone asked. "That's the hard part," Maria admitted. "We need to get it into their main network. One ship at a time won't be enough." In deep space, Captain Frank Martinez received the news about the virus. He had been leading hit-and-run attacks against Confederation outposts with growing success. The Free Species Alliance had expanded to include 3 more races who had been inspired by Earth's resistance. "This could change everything," Frank told Renfix and the other Alliance leaders. "But Maria's right. We need to get it into their main network." Mira, the Kalish scientist, spoke up. "There is a central communications hub in the Proxima sector. All Confederation military transmissions pass through it." "Could we upload the virus there?" Frank asked. "It would be heavily guarded, Drex," the Volturian warrior growled. "But not impossible." The plan took shape, a daring raid on the most secure Confederation facility outside their capital. The Alliance would need to create a distraction big enough to draw away most of the defending ships. On Earth, Dr. Amanda Wells made another breakthrough in her study of human adaptability. "We don't just adapt physically," she explained to General Foster. "Our brains adapt faster too. We learn and innovate more quickly than Confederation species. That's why we've been able to reverse engineer so much of their technology in such a short time." The General nodded. "And that's why they're so afraid of us." In the Confederation capital, the Council debated what they called the human problem. Reports from the front lines showed that Earth's resistance was far stronger than expected. "They are more resilient than any species we have encountered," admitted Admiral Zexthra. His scales had lost some of their shine after months of failed offensives. An ancient Taraxian named Elder Vorks rose from his seat. The chamber fell silent. The Taraxians rarely spoke at council meetings. "There is something you should know about humans," Elder Vorks said, his voice like dry leaves rustling. "Our oldest records speak of another encounter with them." Murmurs of surprise filled the chamber. "Impossible," said a Silosian representative. "This is the first contact with this species." "Not in this timeline," Elder Vorks replied. "But the Taraxian explorers of the Great Void encountered a parallel reality. In that reality, humans had spread across multiple galaxies. They were formidable." He activated a projection showing records so old that most of the council members couldn't read the script. The explorers brought back a warning. Treat humans with respect or do not engage with them at all. They adapt, they innovate, and they never forget an enemy. "Are you suggesting we should fear these primitives?" Admiral Zexthra asked with disgust. "I am suggesting caution," Elder Vorks answered. "We have awakened something that may be beyond our control." The council debated for hours. In the end, they voted to continue the war, but with an even larger force. The Confederation's pride wouldn't allow them to back down from a species they still considered inferior. Back on Earth, civilian, factories had been converted to produce military equipment. Children studied alien language and technology in schools. Everyone contributed to the war effort. President Harris addressed the planet. "The Confederation thought we would surrender quickly. They thought we were weak. But they have learned what? Happens when humanity is threatened. We adapt, we fight back, and we will win our freedom among the stars. In her laboratory, Maria Garcia sent the completed virus to the Alliance fleet. Captain Frank Martinez began preparations for the raid on the communications hub. Dr. Peter Collins finished the new shield-penetrating weapons, and across Confederation space, a whisper began to spread among the Protectorate species. The humans are fighting back, and they're winning. The day of the Confederation's massive offensive arrived. 500 warships appeared at the edge of the solar system, more than Earth had faced before. They moved in perfect formation toward the planet, their weapons charged and ready. Earth wasn't unprepared. The orbital defense platforms, massive, satellites armed with quantum weapons, formed the first line of defense. Behind them, Earth's fleet of smaller, faster ships waited. Every pilot knew the plan and their part in it. Admiral Zexthra stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "Show these humans the full might of the Confederation." The first wave of Confederation ships moved forward, firing energy beams at the defense platforms. The platforms returned fire, their quantum weapons punching through some of the Confederation shields, but there were too many enemy ships. Several platforms exploded in bright flashes of light. In Earth Defense Headquarters, General Alan Foster watched the battle unfold on the main screen. "Activate the virus," he ordered. In orbit, the remaining defense platforms sent out a special signal. It looked like normal communication noise, but hidden inside was Maria's virus. At first, nothing happened. The Confederation ships continued, their advance destroying more platforms. Then a small ship near the edge of the Confederation fleet suddenly lost power. Then another. And another. Admiral Zexthra frowned as reports of malfunctions spread across his fleet. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Our systems are being infected with some kind of program," his technology officer reported, panic in his voice. "It's spreading from ship to ship through our communication channels." Within minutes, a third of the Confederation fleet drifted, helplessly in space, their weapons and engines dead. "Disconnect all communications," Zexthra ordered. "Isolate our systems." It was too late. The virus had spread to over half the fleet. On Earth, General Foster smiled grimly. "Launch Operation Hornet's Nest," Earth's fleet shot forward. Unlike the large Confederation battleships, Earth had built hundreds of small, agile vessels. Each carried only a few crew members and a handful of weapons, but they were incredibly fast and hard to hit. They swarmed around the disabled Confederation ships like angry hornets, firing precision strikes at engines and weapon systems, then darting away before the still-functioning ships could target them. Meanwhile, on the Confederation capital world, Lisa Morris saw her chance. The guards outside her quarters had been reduced as more soldiers were sent to the front lines. A soft knock came at her door. When she opened it, she found a Confederation scientist she recognized as Krell. "We must hurry," he whispered. "Security is focused on the battle reports. We have perhaps 20 minutes to reach my laboratory." Krell was a Meridian, a species known for their logical minds and photographic memories. He had been secretly helping Lisa by sharing information about Confederation, technology, and politics. "Why are you helping me?" Lisa asked as they hurried through empty corridors. "Because the Council is wrong," Krell replied simply. "What they are doing to your species, what they have done to many species, violates the original purpose of the Confederation." In his laboratory, Krell showed Lisa detailed information about the Confederation fleet, including the location of the command ship and Admiral Zexthra's personal authorization codes. "This could change the course of the war," Lisa whispered, quickly memorizing the codes. "That is my hope," Krell said. "Now we must get you to a communication terminal." Back in the solar system, Earth's swarm tactics were working. The Confederation fleet was in disarray, with disabled ships drifting into each other and functioning ships unable to effectively target the small, fast Earth vessels. Admiral Zexthra watched in growing horror as his perfect formation fell apart. "How is this possible?" he hissed. "They are primitives." A new alert sounded on his bridge. Sir, we're detecting a large force approaching from behind us. On the view screen, dozens of ships appeared. The combined fleet of the Free Species Alliance, led by Captain Frank Martinez. This is Captain Frank Martinez of Earth. His voice came through on all Confederation channels. We bring greetings from the Free Species Alliance. Your blockade ends today. The Alliance ships attacked from behind, catching the Confederation fleet in a pincer movement. At that moment, Earth received an encrypted transmission from Lisa Morris, containing the command codes for the Confederation fleet. Colonel Diane Russell, commanding Earth Special Forces, immediately put together a strike team. We're going after the command ship, she told her soldiers. This is our chance to capture Admiral Zexthra himself. Using the shield-penetrating weapons developed by Dr. Collins and the command codes from Lisa, Diane's team boarded the flagship, while the battle raged around them. They fought their way to the bridge where they found Admiral Z. The day of the Confederation's massive offensive arrived. 500 warships appeared at the edge of the solar system, more than Earth had faced before. They moved in perfect formation toward the planet, their weapons charged and ready. Earth wasn't unprepared. The orbital defense platforms, massive satellites armed with quantum weapons, formed the first line of defense. Behind them, Earth's fleet of smaller, faster ships waited. Every pilot knew the plan and their part in it. Admiral Zexthra stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen. Begin the attack, he ordered. Show these humans the full might of the Confederation. The first wave of Confederation ships moved forward, firing energy beams at the defense platforms. The platforms returned fire, their quantum weapons punching through some of the Confederation shields, but there were too many enemy ships. Several platforms exploded in bright flashes of light. In Earth Defense Headquarters, General Alan Foster watched the battle unfold on the main screen. Activate the virus, he ordered. In orbit, the remaining defense platforms sent out a special signal. It looked like normal communication noise, but hidden inside was Maria's virus. At first, nothing happened. The Confederation ships continued their advance, destroying more platforms. Then a small ship near the edge of the Confederation fleet suddenly lost power. Then another, and another. Admiral Zexthra frowned as reports of malfunctions spread across his fleet. What is happening? He demanded. Our systems are being infected with some kind of program, his technology officer reported, panic in his voice. It's spreading from ship to ship through our communication channels. Within minutes, a third of the Confederation fleet drifted, helplessly in space, their weapons and engines dead. Disconnect all communications, Zexthra ordered. Isolate our systems. It was too late. The virus had spread to over half the fleet. On Earth, General Foster smiled grimly. Launch Operation Hornet's Nest. Earth's fleet shot forward. Unlike the large Confederation battleships, Earth had built hundreds of small, agile vessels. Each carried only a few crew members and a handful of weapons, but they were incredibly fast and hard to hit. They swarmed around the disabled Confederation ships like angry hornets, firing precision strikes at engines and weapon systems, then darting away before the still-functioning ships could target them. Meanwhile, on the Confederation capital world, Lisa Morris saw her chance. The guards outside her quarters had been reduced as more soldiers were sent to the front lines. A soft knock came at her door. When she opened it, she found a Confederation scientist she recognized as Krell. We must hurry, he whispered. Security is focused on the battle reports. We have perhaps 20 minutes to reach my laboratory. Krell was a Meridian, a species known for their logical minds and photographic memories. He had been secretly helping Lisa by sharing information about Confederation, technology, and politics. Why are you helping me? Lisa asked as they hurried through empty corridors. Because the Council is wrong, Krell replied simply. What they are doing to your species, what they have done to many species, violates the original purpose of the Confederation. In his laboratory, Krell showed Lisa detailed information about the Confederation fleet, including the location of the command ship and Admiral Zexthra's personal authorization codes. This could change the course of the war, Lisa whispered. Quickly memorizing the codes. That is my hope, Krell said. Now we must get you to a communication terminal. Back in the solar system, Earth's swarm tactics were working. The Confederation fleet was in disarray, with disabled ships drifting into each other and functioning ships unable to effectively target the small, fast Earth vessels. Admiral Zexthra watched in growing horror as his perfect formation fell apart. "How is this possible?" he hissed. "They are primitives." A new alert sounded on his bridge. "Sir, we're detecting a large force approaching from behind us." On the view screen, dozens of ships appeared, the combined fleet of the Free Species Alliance, led by Captain Frank Martinez. "This is Captain Frank Martinez of Earth." His voice came through on all Confederation channels. "We bring greetings from the Free Species Alliance. Your blockade ends today." The Alliance ships attacked from behind, catching the Confederation fleet in a pincer movement. At that moment, Earth received an encrypted transmission from Lisa Morris, containing the command codes for the Confederation fleet. Colonel Diane Russell, commanding Earth Special Forces, immediately put together a strike team. "We're going after the command ship," she told her soldiers. "This is our chance to capture Admiral Zexthra himself." Using the shield-penetrating weapons developed by Dr. Collins and the command codes from Lisa, Diane's team boarded the flagship, while the battle raged around them. They fought their way to the bridge where they found Admiral Zexthra still trying to rally his forces. "Admiral Zexthra," Diane said, training her weapon on him. "In the name of Earth and the Free Species Alliance, you are now our prisoner." The Admiral stared at her in shock. "This is impossible." "No," Diane replied. "This is humanity." With their Admiral captured and almost half their ships disabled or destroyed, the remaining Confederation forces retreated in disorder. The battle for Earth was over, but the war had only just begun. 1 year after the capture of Admiral Zexthra, the remnants of the once mighty Confederation fleet entered Earth's solar system. This time they came not as conquerors but as supplicants. The flagship, smaller and less impressive than Zexthra's vessel had been, transmitted a simple message: "We seek peace." The Galactic Cooperative, now comprising over 30 former Confederation worlds plus many former protectorates, agreed to negotiations. After much discussion, they chose Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon, as neutral ground for the peace conference. Earth's underwater base on Europa was expanded to accommodate representatives from dozens of species. The great dome at its center, built under the moon's thick ice sheet with a clear view of Jupiter filling the sky above, became the setting for a historic moment. Lisa Morris, now Secretary General of Earth, led the human delegation. In the year since the rebellion began, she had become a symbol of the new order in the galaxy. Her simple blue uniform contrasted sharply with the elaborate robes of the Confederation representatives. High Chancellor Vrennik, who had replaced the disgraced Confederation Council, spoke first. His voice, once commanding, now seemed tired. "We Tiwad acknowledge that the old ways cannot continue," he said, looking around the chamber. "The Confederation has lost the trust of too many worlds." "Trust is earned," Lisa replied, "and it can only be built on truth and respect." For 3 weeks, representatives debated the terms of peace. The Confederation, though weakened, still controlled significant territory and resources. Some of its leaders wanted to maintain as much power as possible. Others recognized that fundamental change was necessary. In private meetings with Lisa, High Chancellor Vrennik admitted what many had suspected. "The Tyraxians were right about humans," he said. "Your species adapts faster than any we have encountered. You turned our own technology against us in months, not the decades or centuries it would take others." "It wasn't just technology," Lisa told him. "It was our belief in freedom. Some things are worth fighting for, no matter the odds." Finally, on the 22nd day, the Peace of Europa was signed. The Confederation formally recognized the sovereignty of all former protectorates and agreed to substantial reparations. For centuries of exploitation, the Galactic Cooperative would take control of key trade routes and star systems, while the reduced Confederation would retain some of its core worlds. Most importantly, The practice of creating protectorates was forever banned. All species, regardless of their technological development, would be considered equal under galactic law. As the ceremony concluded, Commander John Baker, who had intercepted that first Altarian signal more than 2 years ago, was invited to speak. He had become a hero to many species for his role in the early days of resistance. John looked at the gathered representatives, humans standing alongside beings from across the galaxy, former enemies now allies, former slaves now free. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history, he said. But let us be clear about what brought us to this moment. It wasn't just human stubbornness, though we have plenty of that. Gentle laughter rippled through the chamber. It was the courage of every species that dared to stand up against oppression. The Nidorians, the Volturians, the Kalish, and so many others. Together we've proven that true strength comes not from domination, but from cooperation. He paused, looking directly at the Confederation delegation. And let the stars themselves bear witness to this truth. Never cross humanity. Not because we are vengeful, but because we will always fight for freedom. Not just our own, but for all who reach for it. The chamber erupted in applause. Even some of the Confederation representatives joined in, recognizing the wisdom in his words. The peace ceremony was broadcast across thousands of worlds. On the former Confederation capital, the Tyraxian archivists updated their ancient records with a new entry. Humans, the species that liberated the stars. Approach with respect and good faith, or not at all. Back on Earth, as news of the peace treaty spread, people celebrated in streets around the globe. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged, not just victorious, but